Okay, hello everybody, good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. There seemed to have been a little bit of an issue with the invite, but I see that people are coming in slowly. I just sent an email out to everyone who was registered, so we should see a few more people drop in. So can I get a confirmation on those on video? I can see my panelists. You can hear me and see me? Yes, awesome. Okay, so we won't probably be using the chat for the audience out there, anyone attending. We won't be using the chat. We're going to exclusively use the Q&A section. So if you have any questions that you would like to have answered, we have a couple of staff and a couple of faculty as well as some students online today, and we're going to give our students an opportunity to talk to you a little bit today as well, and we thank them for coming online with us today. Our staff will do the best, or faculty and staff will do their best to answer your questions in the Q&A box. So if you look at the bar of this webinar, there should be Q&A in there. That should give you a good way to ask your questions, and then they will be answered in that same Q&A box. Depending on the question, you may be answered either privately or publicly, depending if the answer is something that everyone in the crowd could use the answer to. At the bottom of the screen is the link to the handout for today's presentation so that you can follow along or you can download it later. I'll also send a copy of this recording to everyone who's registered at a later time so that you can also have access to this particular presentation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So our first slide just covers the objectives of what we're doing today. So of course, we'll get to meet and greet everybody. I'm of course Elias Villarreal. I am the program director, department chair for the PA program. I'm also faculty. I have been in education for over 20 years. I used to be at a program in South Texas and then transitioned here to NAU almost 3 years now. It'll be 3 years in July. Online with us today is also Poppy Hochstetler, who is one of our staff. We have Jennifer Fierstein, who is one of our faculty. Molly Minko is also one of our staff, and Mr. Ian McLeod is one of our faculty. And then also we have Bianca Lopez, and Bianca Lopez is one of our students. She is the class president for the class of 2021, and we're happy to have her with us today. Thank you so much. And I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we have another student who just joined us that I just promoted to panelist, and his name is Alan Gonzalez. So Alan is with us tonight as well. So hopefully he'll be able to answer some questions. So what are we doing tonight? We are definitely meeting each other. We're going to review all the updates we have. Our application did go up online a few days ago, last week. So we're ready to talk about all of the different things that we may be up to on our end, things that I think would be very important for all of you who are applying currently. We'll be discussing the admissions process, any changes, the timelines. We'll talk about our curriculum as well. And any updates to that. There haven't been very many, but we do want to discuss anyway. And then questions pertaining to our PA program. And of course, if you have any questions about the PA profession itself, we'll be answering those as well today. So let's start off by getting to know the crowd a little bit. So I'm going to launch a poll, and the first poll is to find out where you are from. So we will start with this first poll. So where are you from? And then answer, please. Okay, looks like the majority of the crowd is from Arizona. We've got 18 from Arizona, California, Colorado, and Texas. So welcome to everyone. Welcome to everyone here. You can see the results of the poll we just did right now. So happy to see that everyone's here. Usually, of course, at our program, the majority of our population that applies is from the state of Arizona, and California is usually a close second. So welcome to everybody from Cali. And then we have others from other states as well. And everyone is always welcome, of course. So thanks for coming. The next question that I'm going to ask is a different poll. And the next one is going to be, because we like to find out where everyone is from, we're going to ask you now if you're applying currently. Are you applying to our program? If you're applying right now in this cycle, answer first one. And then if you're applying in the future or not sure yet, let us know as well. Okay, great. So the majority of the crowd is applying during this cycle. That's really great to know. For those of you who are applying in future cycles, especially next year, pay close attention to any comments I might make about things that might change. Of course, anything that we talk about tonight that is COVID-19 related may not apply and probably will not apply to next year, except in the case of some prereqs. And so we'll get to that in a little while. So pay close attention to that as we get to it. And the final question, one more poll and then we're off and running. And that is if you've applied to NAU before. All right, pretty close, a mixed crowd. We've got about almost 50-50 on this one. So the majority have not, but there are a significant amount that have applied. So again, if you're a reapplicant, probably again, stay tuned to the things that we might say that might make you a better applicant, or things you need to consider for sure if you've applied before and want to improve your application. All right, so let's get going then. Before we move on to general information, I want to bring on board our two students. So Bianca, do you know if, Bianca and Alan, do you guys know if any other students are online right now that I need to elevate to panelist?
I kind of glanced over, I didn't see anybody.
Okay, all right, so as far as I know, you guys are here, so I've unmuted Alan as well. Tell us a little bit about, and we're going to get to the main presentation a little bit, but what we want to hear from you guys is, how are you doing? You just finished a semester this past Friday, so you're on a 1-week break. Thank you very much for attending today and helping us out. So tell us a little bit about what your experience has been so far. How was it through COVID, the halfway through the semester? And just let us know your thoughts. Bianca, you go first.
The program itself is very rigorous, but I think the most important part is that our faculty is very supportive and they're there to help us. And when COVID occurred, they had a plan immediately, so we did not lose any time from class or any lectures. We stayed on track. And as far as the online lectures, it feels like you're in class just at home. I haven't experienced that it made it difficult. To me, it just feels like I'm just at home, but you still get the same amount of quality of your education and you're still getting your lectures the same way with your instructors, and they're available to answer by email or even in office hours via Zoom as well. So the help is there, and I have not felt that it has gotten any more difficult because it's been online. If anything, it's more convenient to be at home.
Don't get too used to that.
Yeah. The first week I had to get used to it. It was a little bit different. I had to tell my son when to not bother me, but other than that, I got used to it real quick, and now I actually enjoyed it.
Okay. Alan, what about you?
Yeah, very, very similar experience. It was a very seamless transition. I felt like 1 week we were in school, and then, I think it was that Monday we were just online, and it went well. And same with Bianca. It's I even felt like I have a little bit more, which is like free time is where you don't say a lot in PA school, but a little bit more free time since I don't have to commute. And I'm like, I just wake up, drink a cup of coffee, and it's like I'm in class already. But yeah, I don't feel like my education has suffered in any way. It's anything, it helps me be a little bit more focused. And yeah, it's been great. And just all around, PA school has been just a unique, challenging experience, which you just take it day by day. And you you can't really think about how busy you are. You just keep going, just day at a time, day at a time. But yeah, it's a very unique experience. Can't describe PA school.
Well, good. Thank you. So anybody out in the crowd, does anyone have any questions, raise your hand, use the raise hand feature. Anybody have any questions for the students? We can definitely allow you to talk and ask out there in the crowd. I don't see any hands going up yet. Oh, there's one. Well, there it is. Laura Strong. Laura, I'm giving you allowing to talk.
You hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Oh, awesome. Hey, I was just curious if any of you knew going in, if you wanted to go into a certain type of specialty, or did you have a goal of primary care, or just what was your goal going into everything?
I could start on.
My goal going in was honestly to become well-rounded, and I have a background in emergency medicine, and I do have a preference for that, but one of the reasons why I like ER is because I like variety. So I'm open to new fields, and I am open to new specialties, and more importantly, primary care. I am interested in that, but I still don't know where I'm going to end up, and I think that's what our clinical year is going to prepare us for, so that we know where we're going to go. I think your first year of PA school, that's going to be the least of your worries, because you're just going to want to be worried about getting through every semester. And then once your clinical year comes around, you have more time to think about that. And as we go, we haven't started clinicals yet, but I think that as we go through every rotation, we're going to have a better sense of an idea where we want to go.
Right. Thank you.
And I'm coming from a public health background and community health. So when I came here, I had a big focus on prevention type stuff. And then I've noticed that we'll sit through a lecture and we'll finish a module, and I'll be like, oh, cool, cardio is kind of cool. And we'll finish that. And I'm like, oh, bones are kind of cool. And then we'll finish that. And I'm like, oh, cool, sepsis is kind of cool. And it's just kind of everything you're just kind of picking up, trying to feel for what you like. So again, kind of like what Bianca says, I think in 3 months we start. So that's when we start to get our toes wet and get to see what different clinical sites are like. So yeah, just keeping an open mind, but everyone just kind of, I've noticed with a lot of our classmates has a preference depending on where they worked before, and that's kind of cool. And it's just a little bit of everything, so it's just kind of a personal preference too, but also keeping an open mind.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So we have a question from Nathan Calderon.
Perfect. Are you there?
Yep.
Okay, great. This question is for Bianca. You had mentioned that the program is rigorous. What part so far has made it very rigorous, would you say?
Well, I don't think that there's any preparation for PA school. I thought I had it hard in undergrad, but it's just the volume. The volume is dense. So every week you're learning new things, and in every class, I think you have around 4 to 5 classes every semester, and they're very dense with material. So for me, the most challenging was trying to stay on top of all the material, trying to balance what class am I going to pay attention to, where do I study for this one, and the exams, they're coming. So you have to stay on top of it, and it has to be your priority. You have to prioritize school as your number one. Otherwise, you get behind really quick. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt like I was behind the whole time, but you can do it. You can do it. We all do it, and it's doable. It is possible. It's a rigorous challenge, but I think that's what makes it so unique is how hard this is, and not many can do this. So just trust that you can. Don't get intimidated by us telling you that it's rigorous. Anything good is going to come with its challenges. Just be prepared to take on a big challenge. And if you have that mindset, you're going to overcome.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. The workload is, I don't think I've ever been so busy in my life, ever. And the best advice I could give is just be disciplined about it, have a schedule, and then just don't be afraid to experiment with different techniques, with like study techniques, because what you did before is probably not going to work. Like what you used in undergrad is probably not going to work. It's just going to be completely different. And yeah, just experiment with what works best for you. The way I started studying the beginning of PA school is not the way I study now. It's completely switched. But yeah, don't be afraid. It's going to be all right. And you'll get through.
Thanks, Ellen.
Quincy Young, you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering, was there anything that either of you did during the application cycle that you really felt helped to set you apart for admission?
You're muted, Bianca.
My biggest advice is going to be when you walk into your interview, just walk in with confidence and talk about yourself and talk about your best qualities, and just be confident of what you are. Don't even think of what you don't have as far as a candidate. My biggest piece of advice for anyone is to be confident, because when you speak with confidence and you carry yourself with confidence, it says a lot about you. And this program isn't looking for someone who is overqualified or someone who has taken extra courses. Yes, they look at what you look like on your transcripts, but they care more about what you are as a person. So be genuine, be confident, and just be humble.
Thank you.
And then just kind of understand your why, which is going to be like a big important factor with not just applications, but just in general, especially when you're being slammed with like 4 tests in a week, and just knowing your why, like understanding why you want to do this, and like being honest with yourself. And that's something you just kind of pick up with like some some soul searching and some introspection, and just understanding your why, and it'll help you with not only just PA school, but with just the application process too. You get to understand who you are, and if you're coming from a genuine place, you'll be able to express that. That'd be my advice.
Thank you, guys.
Eileen Mora, is that correct?
It's Eileen.
Eileen,
But
Eileen, your turn.
okay, thank you. Yeah, my question is, I know that NAU likes for applicants to have volunteer hours, and my question is just like where they can stand out, like where they can volunteer, and where did your students volunteer at?
So I volunteered, let's see, I was a camp counselor for like about 5 years. When I was like in my early 20s, I did that for a little bit, and that was kind of fun. Got to hang out in the woods and just kind of guide 12-year-olds everywhere throughout the forest, and got to do archery and stuff. And then when I lived in Phoenix, I volunteered at this organization. It's called Esperanza, and we do community health work. So we do a lot of like community health education, and we go into Cesar Chavez housing, which is HUD housing, and we teach senior citizens about healthy lifestyles, exercise, diet, stuff like that. So same with like advice I could give for that. It's just find something you're interested in, rather than just like checking off a box. Because we would have that when I was working at Esperanza. We'd have people that come in. It was more of a check box type thing, and a lot of times you could tell their heart wasn't in it, and we'd have to go do something, and they just kind of just do it to get it done. And it's frustrating for a lot of people that work there, the people who are, you know, that was something you take a little bit more seriously. So my recommendation is just find something you think you'd be interested in and you see yourself spending, you know, 5 hours a week there. And with that, it doesn't feel like you're just kind of a body just filling a space or checking off a box, that it's something you enjoy going to every week. So, I mean, if you're interested in community health type stuff, I could send you my email, and I know Esperanza is always looking for volunteers. I know they're closed right now with like COVID, but if it's something you're interested, if you're interested in the community health, I could definitely send you some information.
Thanks, Alan. Faculty, any other add-ons to what Alan brought up?
I don't know that it's an add-on, but I think just, you know, what Alan was saying is definitely true. You know, just it's not so much like that we're looking for a specific type of community service. I think, you know, we're looking for the type of person that is interested in being a you know, steward in their community, and it's whatever is going to kind of speak to you and be the most fulfilling type of activity to you, where it's, you know, a genuine experience that you can speak about, where it's something that can add to you as a whole person and add to you as a future healthcare provider, and being able to, you know, sympathize and empathize with your future patients. You know, and then on the kind of, you know, realistic end of things, you know, letters of recommendation may come out of that. And if it is, you know, an activity that you truly are passionate about, you're far more likely to have a, you know, better letter come from that, where somebody can really speak to your interest and your core as an individual.
Thanks, Jennifer. Bianca, we lost you there for a second. Any thoughts on volunteer experiences, community service that you think may have helped you?
I did a couple of different volunteer shifts. I did a couple with community volunteering, where we would teach the community about CPR, drowning prevention, like helmet use for kids and bikes. What else? I did that, and then I volunteered at some shelters. And then one of my favorite ones that I did was a missionary trip we did to Mexico, which I don't want no one to think that you have to go to Mexico to volunteer, but it was such a humbling experience that I encountered there. And it was a really nice experience, being able to help people that were underprivileged and they didn't have the means of going to see a provider. So we were there, we set up in tents, and we saw patients. I was just taking vital signs and helping with translation, since I speak Spanish. And then from there, I did a couple other ones, but kind of like Alan was saying, is find one or find a couple and just don't go to check off a box. Make sure you're there and involve yourself and make connections. You know, you're gonna meet people. And if it's just one place that you're constantly volunteering, that's okay too, as long as you're involved in it and you're becoming a part of something for the community.
Thanks so much, Bianca. Appreciate it. Mr. McLeod, anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. I was just going to kind of I will reinforce what Ms. Fierstein shared, that, you know, one of the challenges sometimes when applying to PA school is getting letters of recommendation, and volunteer opportunities are great ways to, you know, find an individual that potentially could write a letter of recommendation and really go through and capture kind of who you are and why you'd be an asset to the PA program.
Great, thank you, Ian, that's perfect. All right, so we want to thank, we're at the point now where we're going to move on with the presentation. So thank you so much to our two students. We're going to let them go to enjoy the rest of their evenings and their families and their time off. Go back to Netflix and everything you're doing on your week off, okay? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you guys next week.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you. All right, so we will continue with the rest of the presentation here, and I'm going to go through some of the main facts, general information about the program first, and hopefully I'll have actually some things to say about what has already been covered in some of these questions that have been asked during this. Now, if at any point you want to stop me and ask a real quick question, please do so. Just raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak and ask the question, and then we'll move on. So we'll handle it like that. If you have a question that you know, you want answered probably in the background, just like Quincy Young on there, please go ahead and ask in the Q&A box. And any one of the faculty and staff will be happy to answer your question. So the mission of the program is really important. We are what we call a mission-based program in PA education. There are not many of us, around 20 to 30% of all of the 260 PA programs in the country call themselves mission-based. We really pride ourselves in that. And this is what it is. You can find this on our webpage. Everything that we do, from admissions to our curriculum, to our clinical rotations, and even our research and grants that we seek out for our department, are all focused on our mission. We're always looking at ways in which we can really meet the things that are on here. Specifically, we're looking at the diverse background of our applicants, looking at the diverse backgrounds of our patients and the public that we serve in Arizona. And most importantly, in this mission statement, the very last word is what I usually consider to be the most important word of our entire mission statement, and that is Arizona. So we are really focused on this state because we are the only public PA school program in the state. The other two are private. We focus really on making sure that our applicants and then our students subsequently are going to be the best prepared and best equipped to serve the people of Arizona. We really want to encourage and entice people to stay in this state and treat and manage patients here and be healthcare providers in this particular state. Now, our goals are fivefold. You can see our 5 goals here. And what I like to really focus on in this particular goal is number 2, prepare graduates to practice in diverse settings throughout Arizona, special emphasis on rural communities and other underserved communities. And we're very much about that. I think someone asked a minute ago of the students, you know, what should we be doing for community service and what would look great if we were doing volunteer experience? My best advice as the director would be, and from my point of view, would be that you focus on those experiences that are really tied to these communities. So you're looking at what we call medically underserved communities, which is MUC, and that includes rural places, and this also includes medically underserved areas and underserved communities. So it's not always rural. So if you're not in a rural area, you're not at a disadvantage. You can also focus inner city and urban, as long as you're looking at those underserved populations. Where are the uninsured people? Where are the underinsured people? Where are the disabled people? Where are the homeless people? And how can you help? And it doesn't always have to be, you know, volunteering in clinics. It could be service-oriented, service learning type oriented things, just getting your feet wet with just learning about those communities and really deciding if NAU is for you, because we're all about these communities. So coming to our program doesn't mean coming to our program to study dermatology or surgery, although we do provide those experiences because we have to. We're not a program that is set up to really offer anyone to be specialized in those areas. If anything, we offer specialty in the rural, underserved communities. So that's the best that I can say about that. And I would say to focus specifically as an applicant, focus on goal number 2 or bullet number 2 on this particular screen. So just a couple of things about us. We've been accredited and been around since 2010 and 2012. We graduated, our program started to be organized in 2010. We took our first class in 2012, graduated the first class in 2014. We've been accredited shortly thereafter, 2015, and we initially started with 24 students in the class and doubled that 2 years after our start with our accreditation. So we're now at 50, and that's where we sit currently. This class of 2023 will also admit 50 students, no more. We've graduated 7 cohorts so far, and we are a 24-month curriculum, which also is unique for NAU because most programs are 27 to 28 months long. So we're in that small 30% range of programs that are flat 2 years in length. So we divide that exactly in half. So our didactic year, our first year is 12 months, and our second year is 12 months. And we have no overlap, which is also unique for NAU, meaning that in any one semester, we don't have 3 classes enrolled at once and having to manage all of those students. We actually graduate a class in the first week of August, and we start the next one the third week of August. So it's a nice way to kind of transition from one class to the other without having to need to monitor, you know, triple the amount of students that we normally do. It's actually quite an advantage for our program, and we're happy to have that dynamic. At the end of our program, we do deliver a master's degree, which is an MPAS in physician assistant studies, and we also deliver a certificate of graduation at NAU. So both of those things are awarded from completion. So we're part of the College of Health and Human Services, and we are part of NAU, which is located in Flagstaff, Arizona, 2.5 hours north of where the PA program is located. So we are what's known as a statewide campus at the Phoenix Biomedical campus, and the programs that you see in yellow here are those that exist on our campus here in downtown Phoenix. And that is PA, PT, OT, and athletic training. The programs with the asterisk in the yellow also have sister programs up on the Flagstaff campus as well. OT and PA only exist on the Phoenix campus. Interestingly though, also, School of Nursing has about 5 different locations throughout the state. So they are a larger department that really gets involved with a lot more campuses than perhaps we do or any one of the other departments. So they are pretty big, meeting the needs of the state as well. So on the next screen is the biomedical campus. So if you've never come to visit our facility, I encourage you, once COVID is a little settled and we're able to meet in person again. I don't know when that's going to be, but we hope it will be sooner than later. But when that does occur, if you've never toured the building, I would definitely recommend that you come and take advantage of that. You can find out about building tours down at the very bottom of the screen in the yellow bar. There is this link here, and with that link, you can access the page that has some information on how to get a campus tour. Again, those are currently right now not in existence because the building is pretty locked down due to COVID, but I encourage you to keep looking at it. However, even though it's locked down, I've provided some links here as well. We're not going to watch them now because they can take a while to see all of those videos, but there is a tour of the building itself, which is the Health Sciences Education Building. We're located on Van Buren and Fillmore Streets in downtown Phoenix, and we are housed inside of where also the University of Arizona College of Medicine Phoenix is located. So we share the building with them. NAU uses every single floor of the building, and we own part of the building as well. So we make a lot of use of the facility. The PA program specifically uses every single floor of the building in some way, shape, or form. Our department itself is located on the 5th floor. The rest of the departments at NAU are located on the 6th floor, and then every single floor has some sort of classroom space or lab space that we use somehow or other to deliver our curriculum. We also have a video link to our gross anatomy lab that we really enjoy a lot. It is state-of-the-art, fairly new. It was built in 2014 is when it was completed. It houses up to 120 students at one time and has, I think it's 25 or 26 donors in it at any one time during the fall semester when the gross anatomy course is delivered. Our program does utilize cadaver dissection in the gross anatomy lab, which is unique for a PA program, especially in Arizona. This fall semester, I'm not sure what's happening. We're still planning out the fall semester, and with COVID going on, we're not quite sure what the U of A will be doing with that particular course, but they are working hard on it, and we hope to hear from them very soon. This is one of the courses that you'll hear about in a minute that is taught by the medical school entirely. Then the last thing that we have a tour of, and this tour that you'll see at this link is a little more U of A centric, but it really has some good information about what exists in the Simulation and Innovation Center on the 4th floor of our building. We've got 13,000 square feet of nothing but simulation and models and wonderful resources to use to train our students. And we do use those quite heavily, specifically in the summer semester, where we spend most of our time in that center training students how to do procedures using the models that are there, and then also hiring people to act as patients that come out from the general public who have been trained to be patients in particular training opportunities that we have come in and then have themselves examined. For instance, we do male and female genitalia and breast exams are done on patients that we hire to come in and be models for our students in this particular area. So lots going on there. You can see up at the top in the bullet area, there are large learning studios on the 2nd floor that we also utilize from time to time during the year, depending on the course. And these studios are not our traditional auditorium like we have on the 1st floor that we use day in and day out. These studios are housed with peninsula tables that are meant to teach in a group study format. And each peninsula table has its own computer and keyboard so that students are able to work interactively with each other. And really get the job done. The library is pretty amazing. It's housed on the 3rd and 4th floors of the building. It's a 2-story type situation there. Mostly what students use that because it's not your traditional library with books in it. Most students use it for study space and the study rooms that are there for group study and also for just some quiet time for studying as well. All right, let me turn off this pointer. All right, so we're moving on to admissions. Anybody have any questions before I move on? Any questions about the general approach that I just gave? I know a bunch of you have had your questions answered in the questions box. So if none, we'll move right ahead into admissions. And I think this is probably one of the most important sections for everyone who's attending today because the majority of you are currently applying in this cycle that just started. So our minimum requirements are listed here. There haven't been many changes, but I do want to address the couple of changes that have occurred. And the first is going to be to number 1, submitting both the CASPA and NAU applications. The change here has been to the 2nd sentence. So you must complete the CASPA must complete the verification process of the application no later than October 1st. This used to be November 1st last year and subsequent years. We moved that up a little bit this year because we would like to get started with the process a lot sooner, and we want to give decisions of admission a lot quicker than we have in prior years. So it's in every applicant's best interest to ensure that you apply as early as you can, meaning that as soon as you have all of your prereqs finished and they're on your transcripts and you've got an ability to get all of your letters of recommendation and everything else in, like transcripts and whatnot, on time, we recommend that you turn your application in probably by August 1st is a better timeline to give yourself about a month for processing. In the months of August, September, and October, CASPA typically has a 14 to 30 day processing time to verify your application. What does verification mean? It means that CASPA basically looks at all of the information that you submitted after you hit that submit button, and they're going to make sure that all of the courses you entered specifically match your transcripts that were submitted. They won't verify your application until they've received all of the transcripts. They also won't verify your application until they've received at least 2 letters of recommendation. Keep in mind that we require 3, but they will verify you with 2. So that's a detail that not everyone knows. But please do know that even though they verified you, it still doesn't mean that you're going to get reviewed by NAU until you've submitted all 3. So pay attention to that deadline. If you haven't met the October verification deadline for whatever reason, you most likely will not be considered for admission this year. The most common reasons that applicants are not verified by October 1st are almost always student or applicant oriented, meaning that the applicant didn't check their email, didn't respond to CASPA email, the applicant didn't turn in a transcript on time, the applicant didn't address a question that CASPA had about their application, or there was some discrepancy. Another quite common one is the applicant didn't pay the CASPA fee to apply to CASPA and to the program. And so you want to make sure that all of those things are clear. How can you make sure about that? The way to do that is to log into your CASPA application on a daily basis and make sure that it says on there that everything's checked off in green. And if it is, you should be okay on your end until you see that it is finally verified. If by October 1st you have not heard from us, you haven't seen that you've been verified, or the process hasn't been started on our end, it doesn't hurt to send us an email and ask us about that as well. Our staff will let you know where you are in the process if we haven't communicated with you at all. The other thing that's missing from this list of minimum requirements is the GRE. We did discontinue the GRE requirement this spring. We did that as an emergency. On March 17th of 2020, we discontinued the requirement for GRE. Now, even though it seems like it was probably COVID-19 related, it really wasn't. We have been studying the GRE requirement for a number of years at NAU, and we had all of the data for the last 9 years of data, of admissions data to look through to really determine whether we thought the GRE made a difference in our program. And we determined, and the faculty studied this very carefully, looking at all the data, we determined that we couldn't really see a really genuine, strong relationship between a GRE score or taking the GRE and success in our program. So because of that, we decided that it was a good idea to discontinue it. Now for this year, we actually were going to continue to require it until we were able to make it a formal change through NAU and the catalog. But then COVID-19 happened, and we were able to fast forward that and get an exception for a very quick emergency turnaround on the discontinuation based on both our analysis and study of the GRE results in the previous years and also COVID. So we were happy to publish that right away, as you found out, most likely through email on March 17th. That's no longer required. So that definitely is new. So no need to put us in there. Now, if you're applying to the other programs in Arizona, both of the other programs in Arizona do require the GRE. So you'll still need it if you're looking at applying in Arizona and you don't want to just apply to us. We prefer, definitely, well, I shouldn't say we, I should say I prefer that applicants apply to as many programs as they can to increase their chances of getting into PA school. Be realistic about the statistics. It's extremely hard to get admitted to PA school. So try to increase your chances by broadening your horizons and putting more of your eggs in different baskets rather than just counting all of the eggs in one basket. And then apart from that, I don't see any other things that we changed on this minimum requirements list. So we'll move on to the next one. We do and are required to list our preference factors. So we are looking for students that meet our mission. And this slide does nothing more than tell you that when you apply here, we're not just looking at your GPA and your GRE score in the past, but your GPA specifically. We get arguments from people from time to time that say, well, I have a 4.0, I should have been a shoo-in. You should have admitted me right away. You have no reason to turn me away because I'm the best, I have the best grades of all. And typically that's not the only thing, that's not a good argument. First of all, that's not all we're looking at. We're looking at the entire application that you are submitting. So we have a very holistic process here at NAU. From the very beginning, from the moment we open your application, we're looking at every part of your application in its entirety. And yes, we do score, and yes, we do have preferences, and you can see them here. Our preferences obviously are going to be for our mission. So you're looking at ensuring that you have in your application not only, you know, good success in your academics, but we're looking at all of your experiences. We're looking at your community service, your volunteering. We're looking at your letters of recommendation. We're looking at your statements that you've written, all of the passages that you have submitted, answering our questions. And then we're looking also at your work experience. We're looking at all sorts of ways of looking at your rigor, at the academic rigor that you've had prior to coming to our department. So there's a lot going on in terms of what we're looking for. And we're ultimately looking for those students that appear to match our mission the most. So give you an example. If you are an applicant who has done a ton of work in very, very specialized areas of medicine, and they're not something that we really look for in our mission, it might be that you might not be the best candidate. Doesn't mean you won't get an interview. It doesn't mean that you won't get attention. And it especially doesn't mean that we won't review your application. We're going to look at every single applicant that applies and submits on time. So everyone gets a chance. Everyone gets an opportunity. But from there, we have to look at who makes the best person, in our opinion, according to our mission and preference factors for our particular program. Now, the next slide here, and this is like the next 3 or 4 slides, and this is current cycle changes and things related to COVID-19. So one thing that CASPA has done is they have a COVID-19 narrative. And this comes up for all applicants to any PA program that is on CASPA. So this is not unique to NAU. So when you fill this out, I did have some people send me some messages by email online asking, do we have to fill out the COVID-19 narrative? Should we fill it out? What should we say? Well, first, I can't tell you what to say because that would be a conflict of interest, obviously, but I can say that it's in your best interest to tell us as much about you as possible. So absolutely, fill it out. Let us know how COVID-19 has affected you as an applicant, if at all. If it hasn't affected you, by all means, tell us it hasn't affected you one bit. However, I don't think that that is really realistic. I think everyone has really been affected in some way, shape, or form. But what we want to know specifically, and I think that all PA programs will probably be similar, is what specifically has been affected in your ability to apply to PA programs by COVID. So some people might talk about, you know, pass-fail grades. Some people might talk about not being able to do certain things or not being able to accomplish what they wanted to do with their volunteering or community service, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody's going to have a different answer to this question. So we do encourage you to fill it out and let us know. A couple of things. What has changed for NAU? Now, if you've applied before, and I saw that at least 10 of you have, if you've applied before, you have seen that we do require that you already fill out 3 narratives for NAU. So we ask you, if you've applied to NAU before, that question is for reapplicants and only reapplicants. We ask you, if you've applied before, you know, how have you changed or what have you done to improve yourself from one year to the next? That only applies to people who have applied in the past. The other 2 passages that we already have on CASPA, everyone has to fill out. One of those is what interests you in Arizona? And then the other question is, how do you meet the mission, NAU's mission in yourself as an applicant? So those 3 questions have always been there. We added these 2 this year. And so that is question number 1, academic challenges and life's obstacles may impact the ability to be successful during PA school, be successful. Some indicators of this impact include D or F grades or excessive C grades, course drops or withdrawals, or frequent repeated courses, etc. If applicable, please explain any circumstances that may have affected your ability to reach your academic goals. Include strategies you implemented to address any of these factors. So this question really is important for those of you that feel like your academics maybe haven't been what you would have liked them to have been to apply to PA school. Or if you know from looking online at our statistics of our entering classes that your GPA doesn't quite match up to what the average GPA of our class is, or any one of the other demographics you see there specifically related to academics, please let us know. This is your opportunity here to explain those things. Question number 2, the rigorous nature of PA education requires a student to be consistent, reliable, and timely. Certain circumstances may impact your ability to maintain a rigorous academic history. Some indicators of the effect of these circumstances include long gaps in course enrollment, low semester course loads, and extended time to completion of degrees. If applicable, describe the circumstances related to any of these indicators in your application. So again, you know, some of these non-traditional things, and we see this a lot in non-traditional students, non-traditional applicants, who, you know, have had these struggles or these obstacles in their way that, you know, really haven't allowed them to be, you know, like the typical applicant that has, you know, 15 plus credits per semester for 3 to 4 years and finish, you know, college on time. Some people finish college a lot later. They might take 4, 5, 6, 7 years to complete, but they do complete. Maybe they, you know, have large families they're taking care of, or they take care of loved ones at home. They're active military, so that also impacts, or they work 3 and 4 jobs at the same time as going to school part-time. So there's a lot of things going on. These questions, so question number 1 or 2, do not mean that they are negative. So if you answer these, doesn't mean that you're going to be held in a negative light. If anything, it gives you an opportunity to tell us more about yourself and how you have really addressed some of the adversity in your life preparing for PA school. Finally, we already discussed this, the no GRE requirement. So be sure that you answer these if they're applicable. They're not absolutely required. If you have nothing to say about question number 1, by all means, don't answer it. And then same thing applies for question number 2. So we have published this a while back at the beginning of March or mid-March. We published our only COVID-19 related change, and that was for pass-fail grades. And so we realized that many schools out there in undergrad have changed, and this includes NAU, have changed their grade system to pass-fail due to COVID concerns. And we have changed our policy, whereas we didn't allow pass-fail grades for any prerequisites before, we are allowing them currently through this period of time. So from March through September 1st, if you took a course that you opted for a pass-fail grade, we will accept a pass. If you failed the course, unfortunately, you can't use it. And if you took no credit for the course, you cannot use that as your prereq. You actually have to get credit for it, and it has to be at least a pass. Now, there are many students who opted for A, B, C, and D grades, and that's fine. You can submit your grade, but you should know that if you got a C or a D, it isn't going to be forgiven. So that, you know, gets calculated into your GPA and all of everything else that implies. So it's up to you on what you decide your grade will be if you're currently enrolled in courses, and if you're going to be enrolled in courses this summer as well, which one to take. We do not have an answer yet on whether or not we're going to extend the pass-fail COVID contingency for next year. So, you know, we'll get back to you when next year's cycle is going to start. But I can say for those of you who are applying this year that perhaps will not get accepted this year, the courses that you opt for pass-fail this particular time period will apply next year. So that next year, if you apply again, and you're using a course that you took during March through September of this year as a pass, you do not have to go and retake the course and get a grade for it to apply next year. It'll continue to apply as long as that course was earned for credit during this time period and during this time period only. So we have a full process for that. So this is the actual policy that you can see on your screen here. It's through September 1st only for now. And if you were required by your school to do this, then you can apply for this particular contingency. And we do have a form that we have created for this. The form requires you to, we have the link here, and the link is down in the yellow bar again. This is available online in our admission section and also in our frequently asked questions section as well. Couple of things that are required here. So we do require documentation of this particular process. So you'll need to send us, as part of this form, you'll need to upload an unofficial transcript. You'll need to upload the course syllabus for that course. And then finally, a screenshot of some sort, or proof that your school has a policy related to pass-fail node credit. Every school that's doing this should have this. You probably have an email about it. It's probably, in bold print on their website, up in the top bar or bottom bar somewhere, or as a pop-up. So it shouldn't be that difficult to find. Take a screenshot of it and keep it. And you'll want to turn that as an upload. And this form in particular, the COVID-19 course request form, has an ability for upload. So that's where you'll get it. Once that comes to us, and that comes directly to myself, you'll get an approve or a decline, depending if you submitted everything. We have no reason to decline these unless you didn't submit something. So be sure that you submit all of the materials. I would also recommend that you ensure that you submit the form as directed and follow instructions. Otherwise, you will receive a decline. With our prerequisite inquiry form, we find that a lot of people don't fill that out completely, like leave sections blank, or, instead of doing a course description, they put 2 words, and a course description is not 2 words. So we want you to follow the instructions that are there to their fullest extent. Give us all of the information that we're requesting so that we may give you a decision, hopefully of approved. And like I said, we have no reason to decline anybody unless, of course, you didn't follow directions. So that is our COVID-19 policy. Now, we want to also address some myths out there, things that I've heard people saying that NAU is doing or NAU is going to do, and we want to settle those out first and foremost now. So we will not waive any prerequisites. Somebody actually told me, oh, the school's probably going to waive it. Don't worry about it, and this came from a professor at another Arizona school. That is untrue. Unless we say on a forum like this, or we post on our website that we're going to waive prereqs, like, oh, we're no longer going to require labs. That's another one that I heard. That is inaccurate. Everything is still required. We are not waiving a single prerequisite. Everything on the list is required. The only thing that has changed about prerequisites has been the grade of pass-fail during that time period. Incidentally, another person has also submitted some requests, or actually several people submitted requests for pass-fail courses from years behind. And those are also not going to be allowed. It's only for the time period during COVID, not for pass-fail courses in all other years. So all other years, the original policy applies. We have not waived healthcare experience. The 500 hours, regardless of COVID, are still required. Guess what? There are plenty of volunteer experiences that are to be had right now during COVID. Plenty of service to be to go around with a mask and proper PPE placed. So we are requiring those 500 hours to be completed in order to apply. Another one I heard was that we were no longer requiring letters of recommendation. Also a myth. We are requiring all 3 of them. All of them must be submitted by the deadline, and we are not budging on that deadline. So please get those in. One other one that there's some confusion about, and this one I think is more valid, we are requiring transcripts, so it's really important that you get all your transcripts in. However, CASPA does have a policy change for transcripts, and you want to read their policy. I believe they may accept unofficial transcripts in certain cases, but please check the CASPA website for any updates on that particular policy. But we will eventually, if you get admitted to NAU, you will be required to submit those official transcripts eventually. We have not extended the application deadline. Another one that I heard was somebody saying from, again, a professor from a different institution, oh, they're probably going to extend the deadline. You know, they can't possibly require you to apply on time. And actually we can. So we are not going to change that. It's going to be September 1st. We expect everybody to meet that deadline. So please try to get your stuff in as soon as possible. NAU has not waived the NAU graduate application. As you know, you have to apply to CASPA, and you also have to fill out the NAU grad application that comes with a $65 fee. Both are still required. That will not be waived. We're also not requiring the bachelor's degree requirement. So if because of COVID, you're not able to finish your degree by September or by August, by the time that we start our new class, by August of 2021, you will not be able to join the class, and we will not defer the decision either. So it's really important that you look at your bachelor's degree if you're still working on it, and are you going to complete it by the time that we start our class, which would be August of 2021. If that's not the case, then you want to probably apply for the next cycle. Also, another one that we've heard is that we will not be having interviews this year, that we're going to discontinue interviews because of COVID. That is not true. We are going to continue to have interviews. What we don't know right now is if interviews are going to be on campus in person or if they will be online in this format that we're having right now. We will get back to everyone after we have planned that out. We actually are currently designing a plan for that. And honestly, we don't have a decision yet. So we will get back to everyone and let people know as soon as we can about interviews. But we do plan to, for sure, have interviews. That's not something that's going away. NAU has not changed its transfer policy. For any of you who have joined us who may be PA students elsewhere, who are upset at the PA program or not happy, or you don't feel the PA program is meeting your needs and in the current COVID situation, we will not be accepting applications from PA students who are currently enrolled at other PA programs at all. The only way that we will accept those applicants is if the program has been closed permanently due to COVID-19, and we will require a competitive application, meaning we will not give any transfer credit or advanced placement credit for any of those PA students at other programs. So, you know, and this is in solidarity with our other PA programs in the country, that students need to stick to the program that they decided to attend. Again, unless the program permanently closed their doors and will not reopen ever again, and we have solid proof of that, then we will allow, you know, anyone can apply, but then we will review and process the application if you applied to CASPA. I don't know that that's happening a lot, but we have heard a couple of people that may be wanting to do that. And so we just wanted to be out and transparent about that particular process. Inquiries. So if you are worried that you're not sure you can apply to our program because you're not sure you have the right coursework, we have a process for that. If you have a course-related question, like, did the course I take qualify for this particular prerequisite? We would like for you to fill out this prerequisite inquiry form that we have built online on Google Forms. If you are an Arizona student, so you attended college in Arizona at any one of the universities or community colleges in this state, we have done a little bit of that work for you already, in that you can fill out one of these forms here. So if you go on our website and look at admissions, and then go down into the prerequisite course lists, you can find universities and community colleges in Arizona and see if we accept your courses. That's kind of the easiest way to figure that out. If you attended an Arizona school and your course is not there, you can still ask the question. So please, by all means, send us the course if we didn't address it on our prereq list, and we will do so at that time. If you attended school out of state, not everyone needs to do a prerequisite form. So if you went out of state, look at that general prerequisite course list there. And we've made an effort there to put in some course titles. What are the types of courses that you should be looking for additional sciences, for instance, or even for any one of the regular prerequisites? They're very straightforward. You know, general biology is general biology across institutions. There are a few schools that do like to call things, you know, different names and be creative with their curriculum. And we understand that. So by all means, ask away if you need for us to chime in on whether or not those courses will be allowed. And that form is the one. Now, if you ask us a question, if you use this email address, paprog@nau.edu, and you're asking us, hey, will you take this course? You will not get a response. Or the response that you will get will be a copy and paste of this link here to the prerequisite inquiry form for you to ask the question through there. All other questions about our program can be asked through the PA Prog web email address. We are happy to receive those. Our friends, Poppy and Molly on here are primarily the people on our staff that answer those questions for you on a daily basis. And occasionally I answer those as well if they forward them to me, if it's something that needs consultation from me. This is a list of our prerequisites. They have not changed. They are the same as they always have been. I added a few notes here and there. Anything with an asterisk on there means that you have to take a lab. We have to find lab credit some way, shape, or form on there. And yes, we do realize that most schools with a lab credit makes a 4 credit. And so if you have 4 credits, that's still okay, we'll take it. But we also know that there are some schools that even with the lab together, the course is only worth 3 credits, and that's fine, we'll take it. If there is no asterisk on there, it means just that. We do not require a lab. For the chemistries, please note, and this is probably one of the most common questions we get. We have addressed this very thoroughly on our frequently asked questions, but you know, we know there's a lot on there, so it's easily missed. Additional chemistries that you may take that are beyond those that are here, you can use toward the additional science section, so that if you took both organic chemistry 2 and biochemistry, and then you also have organic chemistry 1, you can use those 2 of those courses as part of the additional sciences. That's perfectly fine. No need to ask for permission for that. That's already addressed in our frequently asked questions. I added a couple of things to the additional sciences section, and this is, you know, we get a lot of questions about, well, which sciences should I take? Really focus on 3,000, 4,000 level or 300, 400 level, depending the school you attend. Looking at those real upper level sciences or advanced sciences. We will take courses in ecology, zoology, and botany. They're fine. But you know, you should know they're not very competitive, and we'll take students that have the other types of sciences before we take students that have these sort. You know, and it's not uncommon to accept students with some ecology courses, but the problem is that if that's all the applicant has, they're not going to be very well equipped to be successful in our program. Our prereqs are designed for ultimate success in our program to really arm every applicant and every student with all of the background framework information to be ready for our program. So despite what people may think, pharmacology does not prepare you for this program. Taking you know, all 800 hours of exercise science does not prepare you for this program. What prepares you best for our program is, first of all, our faculty, and second of all, the framework that you build. We have a very unique curriculum that we feel the need to support the needs of this program with the prerequisites that we have designed, which is why we're pretty strict about what we require and what we consider to be competitive and not competitive. Physics also is another common one. Physics is not accepted for additional sciences, so we don't consider that one of the sciences that is preparatory for our program. We realize it's required for med school and the pre-med requirements, but we're also not pre-med, so not something that is applicable to our program. Kinesiology is typically not accepted except in rare exceptions. And so if you have a kinesiology course that you consider to be additional science, or that you feel is anatomy and physiology worthy of credit, you want to probably send in the prerequisite inquiry form for that. I can tell you most of them are denied with very few exceptions. So send those forward if you need them to be looked at. If you have courses outside of the state of Arizona, you may submit a prerequisite inquiry form. Look through that general sheet first. It may be that that'll answer your question. And if you look like your course title looks like something very similar to what we require, that's fine. Statistics is one that's also required. One of the most common challenges that we have, especially for applicants from California, is all of the quarter and trimester credit system in California. So most people with a 4-credit course from California in statistics cannot apply to our program because a 4-credit course in a trimester quarter system is worth 2.667 credits in our system, which means it's just shy of 3, and we do not make the exception. But what you can do is if you've taken a research course of some sort, then you can add that on to your statistics course, and then we make the combination of those 2 courses together gives you enough credit to apply to our program. So if you would like for us to consider those research courses, please send them through our prerequisite inquiry form, and we'll look at them and get you a decision as quickly as we can so that you're then able to apply to our program. Finally, the last prereq is the completed in the last 5 years. So this is our nod to some of your coursework has to be current. All of the prereqs do not have any expiration date. So for instance, if you took general biology back in 1985, we will take the course, it counts. Many programs do not allow that. Many programs have a 5 to 7 year course requirement where all of your courses have to be fairly new. For us, the only thing that has to be new is at least 9 credits of science. And this is any science at all. So it could be a prereq or it could be not a prereq. It could be any science. And it has to be in the last 5 calendar years. So you're looking at using the year 2020. So count back from 2020. So anything taken from 2015 to current. If you do not have at least 9 credits of science that are from 2015 to now, then you'll have to take some time to get some of those courses. And this will not be made exception as well. So real important to get that under your belt. We discussed this page already on our webpage. This is our prereq checklists. Please feel free to look at those and please send us any new ones that you might have that aren't listed. Interviews. So interviews are by invitation only. We typically decide on interviews sometime around late August, September, and then down into almost October, we're still sending interview invites. The interviews occur in the months of September through November. We like to finish them by the end of October. This year, we did add on a date or 2 for the beginning of November. And we may do so this year, just depends on where we're at with our planning. But we would like to finish our interviews by the end of October. So that gives you a general idea of when to expect that. Will there be any COVID changes? As I discussed before, we don't know yet. If you continue to attend these on a monthly basis, every first Monday of the month, except for September, which is the first Tuesday of September, you may find out some information about any changes. Of course, we're going to send emails out to everyone that's on our list. And we'll also send emails out to our CASPA list as well to ensure that everyone knows what's going on with interviews. What do we do on interview day? So in a typical year where we have face-to-face on-campus interviews, we are looking at one-on-one interviews with faculty, and we utilize both internal and external faculty. We use preceptors that help us train our students out during the second year. We use alumni of the program, and we take advantage of as many people as we can from on campus. So there may be even some faculty from other disciplines that will help us interview as well. We do a team group interaction and problem solving session as well, to where we get our applicants in a room together with other applicants and some people who are basically watching the interaction. And we put a scenario out there and we ask questions of the group. to see what kind of dynamics happen in the room. So that happens as well on the day. We also talk about the PA profession. We also talk about our program, of course, just like we are now. And we're, of course, any interview day would be looking at interpersonal skills and presentation. So how you present yourself as an applicant while we are interviewing you is extremely important to us. Putting your best foot forward is always a good idea. We're looking for professional behavior, professional demeanor, and professional dress code. And this is going to be whether we have interviews online or in person. We expect that online, you don't show up in your pajamas to do your PA interview, even though it's online on a Zoom. We expect you to do and act exactly like you would on campus if we end up doing this online. Again, I don't know that we will, but that's important to know for now, that we're going to try to replicate in as much as we can. At this point, we've had a lot of experience with Zoom specifically, teaching, and we're very comfortable with breakout groups and whatnot. So we are very comfortable with being able to offer as close to what we offer on campus without the ability to be on campus. So we expect to have a full day commitment from everybody applying to our program. We also offer the ability for our applicants, and this is typically the favorite part of students, is we offer the ability to talk to our actual PA students the day of the interview. And whether we're on campus or not, we plan to offer that to students this year as well. So more to come about interviews at a later time. So just some suggested things about examples, some experiences that you might want to have to make you a better applicant. We get this question a lot. I know it was asked before also of one of the students earlier in the question and answer session with the students, and that is, you know, joining the AAPA, the American Academy of PAs, or the Arizona State Association of PAs is a real highlight, and it's a good thing to know. Will that get you in the program? Probably not. But I think what you're going to get out of these, about being a pre-PA member, is that you're going to learn a lot about the profession. What are those hot topics in the profession right now? What are the politics that are going on? What are sort of the things to know? You're going to be in the know if you receive the emails from these organizations and you receive their magazines and their mailers and everything else that they're doing, because they're very focused not only on PAs and PA students, they're also focused on pre-PAs. They're really interested in the future of the profession. So by all means, join. It's not nearly as expensive to join as it is for, say, myself as a professional PA to join. And I believe that the cost is like $75 a year or something of that nature, or maybe for even 2 years. And in the case of AAPA, I think they convert your pre-PA membership to a PA student membership should you get accepted to PA school. So, you know, eventually you're going to have to become a member anyway if you get into PA school. So it's really in your best interest to get as much research, and you want to get your research from literally the horse's mouth. And these people are going to be giving you that. If you're outside of the state, you're in California or any of the other states that are joining us today, please join your state association as well of PAs and find out what they're up to. It's really important for you to know what's going on in the state in which you plan to practice. Every university in Arizona has a pre-PA organization. Some of the community colleges do, most do outside of the state as well. Inquire at your university. What are the clubs doing and the student organizations doing? What have they put together to really get you some shadowing experience, some volunteer experiences? They have a lot of guest speakers. In fact, we volunteer to be guest speakers at many of these pre-PA organizations. We do it quite a bit with ASU, both Tempe and downtown campus, because they have two organizations. We do it with Tucson in U of A in Tucson, and we do it also with Flagstaff up north. So we also occasionally do it for the community colleges, specifically for the community college orientations, and then also GCU in town as well. So be really active with them. That's another great way to get information and just get more experience. This is a new one, ASU Medical Scholars. If you are an ASU student currently enrolled, please call your health advisors and ask them about this particular opportunity. It's brand new. We just started it not too long ago. This is an opportunity for you as an ASU student to be matched up with a PA student in our program, and have that kind of relationship one-on-one. You get their email address and sometimes their phone number even. Some of them even offer one-on-one meetups at coffee shops or on campus or wherever, to really just kind of pick their brain about going to PA school and what they should be doing. So if you are at ASU, I highly recommend that you join ASU Medical Scholars. It's totally free. And it's a great program. Right now, I believe we only have 14 people signed up through ASU to do that, and we have way more PA students. So right now, there are less ASU students interested than there are than there are PA students. So I think it just hasn't been advertised that much, and then COVID happened like shortly thereafter, but it did launch in February, and it's ongoing. We have one faculty member assigned to that, specifically running that for us. So please inquire at ASU about that with your healthcare advisor, healthcare professionals advisor people. Take as many additional science as you can. The more, the better. You can't possibly have too many science courses, okay? So the more science you have, the better, honestly, chance you look, and the better chance you have of getting admitted into PA school. PA schools love science. They love this sort of biological, theoretical science. So the more, the merrier. Please get as much as you can. A lot of students ask, well, which science courses should I take? Look at that list that we have, the general prerequisites list that we have on our website. Look for those types of course titles. If you went to school or are going to school in Arizona, look for those that are on the second page. All of those course numbers we listed there, those are the ones that you need to be looking at if you really want to take more coursework. Advanced degrees, certifications. If you have a degree in something else, a master's or a doctorate in something else, that's definitely a one-up. That makes you unique. That makes you stand out from other applicants. If you're certified to do certain things, especially in healthcare, that also helps out as well. PA shadowing, if you can get it. We do not, and I should be very clear about this, we do not require PA shadowing. We also do not make admissions decisions based on whether an applicant has PA shadowing or not. Where PA shadowing helps every applicant is in their ability to be well-researched and well-versed on the profession. So if you've shadowed PAs, you're able to answer questions we have about, well, what does a PA do? And what's the difference between a PA and a doctor and a nurse practitioner and a dentist and a nurse and everyone else? Your background knowledge about the PA profession is going to be so much better than anyone else if you've had that firsthand knowledge shadowing PA. So definitely it's in your best interest to have that because you're going to be better prepared. Volunteer work, community service really speaks to our mission. We're looking for servant leadership. We're looking for those people that are out there in the underserved communities, in the rural communities, really giving back. And not just doing it because they have to, because they're getting into PA school. Many of these students really have been doing it all their lives or have been doing it all throughout high school and all throughout college. And they didn't just do it, for one semester before they applied to PA school because they had to. We look at those types of things and we look at the record that people have of service. And so the more that you can do, the better. So really try to get involved in your free time as much as you can. Service to medical underserved communities. So those MUCs, rural areas, medically underserved areas, urban areas, uninsured, underinsured populations, special race ethnicities, populations that serve particular people, people that serve disabilities. I mentioned homeless before. Really, I mean, the list is endless. These are just some of the ones that we're looking at in terms of service. So those types of experience that you have really kind of set you apart from others. And the more of that you have, the better chance that you will stand out to us. Finally, about admissions, really most, if not all of your questions, I have not found many questions that can't be answered on our frequently asked questions. So there's a lot going on there. And we realize that you can get lost in some of those questions, but I guarantee that it won't be a waste of your time. If you have a question about our program that you don't want to wait for an answer from, like you don't want to wait for Poppy and Molly to look at your question online, or you know, you're a little impatient, or it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you want your answer right now, chances are that we've already answered it on the FAQ. So look through these accordions here, you know, do the drop downs and see if we've answered your question. Chances are we have. It could be also that we answered your question, but we weren't quite clear, or you don't quite understand what we're saying. By all means, paprog@nau.edu. Send that email off to our staff and they can clarify that question for you, or give you specific examples, or point you in the right direction should you not be able to find exactly what you're looking for. Finally, the timeline and important dates for our admissions process. So obviously we open our application up in April. That is the CASPA application, and the NAU application should be open as well. If it's not, it will soon be open. Then the September 1st deadline is for the both the CASPA and the NAU submission deadline. Both are due the same day. And then October 1st is the date when your CASPA application must be verified by CASPA. Interviews occur from September through November. And then we have invitations that we send. So we decide on the class between November and December. And then we start and matriculate the new class in the month of August is when we start. We start typically 3rd week in August with coursework. And the 2nd week of August is our week-long orientation called the Academy for Success. So the 1st week in August is the only one where nobody's doing anything at the PA program except graduating our previous class. And then we start with the new one immediately after that. Any questions before I move on? Any questions on admission? This is usually the section that has the most questions. I'll look for any raised hands. All right, looks like we have one. Is it Nina or Nina? Go right ahead.
Hi, it's Nena. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nana, go right ahead.
Hi, I just wanted a little bit of clarification when it comes to the 500 healthcare hours. Like, how are you supposed to track that or monitor how many hours you're getting? And then also with that, does work experience count toward the healthcare hours as well?
Great, those are both great questions. And so let me answer the first part of your question, and that was, how do you keep track of that? Well, that's based on you. We require that every student try to keep a good log, a good diary or journal of what you've done with that. I've seen all sorts of ways. Some people just keep, you know, a running list. Other people have, you know, advanced Excel spreadsheets where they keep all that information. What you do on your end to keep a track of all of that really is up to you. Some people are very organized and some people do not require that much organization. However, when you fill out the section in your CASP application about healthcare experience, there are a lot of different tabs on there that'll tell you what you should enter where. So really what you want to do there is look at where you have logged your stuff on your records and then transfer that over to what CASPA is asking for in terms of healthcare experience. Now, they're going to ask you all sorts of questions like, was your healthcare experience volunteer or was it paid? Meaning work experience, which kind of gets to your second question about your experience. Right now, what we say is we require 500 healthcare hours, period. It could be paid, it could be work hours, it could be unpaid. It doesn't really matter. But I'll tell you, if you want to stand out, you know, if you have the ability to do more hours beyond your work, beyond what's required for your work, or beyond what's required for a course that you're taking, that's always better. But the truth of the matter is 500 is 500. It doesn't matter where they come from. Now, if you want to stand out with these hours is you want to have more than 500 because every single applicant is required to have the minimum 500. So just having the hours isn't really going to make a big difference or make anyone stand out. Having more than that really is going to make a huge difference. Now, the opposite also applies. If there's a point where you have so many hours, like if you have 10,000 hours because, you know, you're a practicing healthcare professional already, you know, having the ability and knowing that you're a practicing healthcare professional really kind of takes care of all those hours. So we can see that you obviously have enough credit. So, you know, we don't score more points or give more credit for people that have, you know, exponential number of hours or anything. The system doesn't work that way. So we do take into account those other careers, like people who apply who are already healthcare professionals. I hope that answers both of your questions, Nena.
No, that answers it very well. Thank you.
Great, you're welcome. Anybody else with a question? All right, Zach Adams, go right ahead. Zach Adams. Okay, we'll come back to Zach. How about Quincy Young?
Hi, I was wondering, in terms of any research experience, if it involved healthcare, would it be best to log that under research or healthcare experience within CASPA?
Yes, Quincy, that's a great question. CASPA, actually, if I'm not mistaken, do they not have a section for research? I thought that they did.
They do.
Yes, so you know, it's a double-edged sword there. For us, it doesn't matter. Put it where you think it belongs the most. What we like to think, though, is that, like, if you have a certain amount of hours and you think, well, you know, I really need my research hours to count as my healthcare hours, put them in there for us. But, you know, the problem is that your CASPA application is for all PA programs, not just for us. So when we review your application, we're going to be looking for all of your sections. So we're not going to miss any of your sections. We're going to count every hour that you have to ensure that we can come up with the minimum 500, and then we'll go from there. So if you have very few, you know, you want to put them all where you need them, which is the 500. If you're only applying to us, then put them all in healthcare, and then we'll figure it out from there. But since you may be applying to other programs, put them where they belong, and then, you know, allow the program to decide where they're going to utilize them. For us, that's what we would do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Zach, are you still there? We couldn't hear you earlier. Yeah, I think it's not working for him. All right, anyone else with a question? Zach, you can always ask in the Q&A if it's not working for you. We have Katrina with a question. Go right ahead, Katrina.
Hi, Elias, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay. My question is, if we're taking graduate courses and they are pass or fail for the COVID semester, do you still want us to go ahead and fill out the pass or fail form, even though it's not technically a prerequisite?
That's an excellent question. And this applies even to, this applies also to the regular side, to the undergraduate courses. If it's not a prereq, we don't need to know. You know, we'll just take it, and CASPA will take it as well. The only thing we need a form for is if you're planning to use that course as part of the prereqs. Excellent question.
Perfect, thank you.
You're very welcome. Anyone else? I'll take one more question. All right, thanks. Any questions I didn't get on curriculum, please ask them in the Q&A box where staff is happy to answer. So we'll move on to curriculum real quickly. So our curriculum I discussed before is 24 months. It's 6 semesters total. This includes summers. We do not have any semesters off. You start in August and you finish 2 Augusts later. Our didactic year is 3 semesters, fall, spring, and summer. It's all on-campus courses. NAU is a little unique in that we do not have a mechanism for sending students out to clinics and to see real patients out during the first year. Some programs do offer that. And I won't say that we won't ever do that in our program, but since we are so crunched in a 24-month curriculum, we do take advantage of all of that time to ensure that we deliver all of the curriculum that we need to during the first year. And we feel like since we offer so many hours of contact during the second year, that there's enough time there for students to make those connections during the second year. However, if you are an applicant who is really interested in a program that gets you out to the front lines immediately from the first day of class, we're probably not the program for you. That's just not our philosophy at our program currently, and I don't see that vision for that changing anytime soon. So not too much real patient exposure during first year, except for those patients that we hire to come in to our campus and be models for our students and certain assessments that we do and trainings. Our clinical year is also 3 semesters. It's the second fall, spring, and summer sequence. And this is new that started this year, and this is 8 clinical rotations, 7 core and 1 elective rotation at our program. All of these are off campus with periodic campus visits. So our students do have to come back to the Phoenix campus at least 7 to 8 times in the year, if not more, depending on what we schedule. And now the breakdown of the first year. So this gives you kind of an at-a-glance view of what our curriculum looks like first year. So you can see that, you know, as Bianca said earlier, it's extremely rigorous. So we require 19 credits the first session, 20 the second session, and then 17. Now the 17 credits, keep in mind, is in a 12-week semester. So this coming Monday, students are starting what we know to be the most difficult semester of our entire 3-semester curriculum, because it's fast and it's shortened by 4 weeks. You would be surprised what we can do in PA school in a 4-week period. We can deliver a lot of instruction. And so not having those 4 weeks is a really big deal. So students really have to hunker down. During the 2 big semesters, so during fall and spring, I can say comfortably that students typically have, if not 1 half day off, they typically have 2 half days off during that semester for studying and, you know, just kind of relaxing and doing other things and catching up and whatnot. During the summer semester, students almost never have a half day off. They're in class from 8 to at least 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. And I can say for our curriculum, we typically are not a weekend program. We don't offer classes on Saturday and Sunday. Except for maybe 1 exception the entire year where we might have a training session that's required on a Saturday, Sunday. But other than that, we're pretty much a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 type of program. We also don't do very many evenings as well. Now, there are some evening events like the one you're attending now. We do require students. Today was just a volunteer basis. But otherwise, on other events, we do require at least a handful of volunteer students to remain behind to do these sorts of events and give back. We never assign them. We always allow a volunteer experience, but we do require some presence on some evenings. And those are, again, few and far between, and students usually take turns doing that. It's not always the same group of students, unless they are class officers, in which case they find out they usually end up being the volunteers a lot more than the other students who are not officers. So you'll notice also there are some courses with asterisks on them, specifically 2 courses in the fall and 1 in the spring. These are courses that are taught by the University of Arizona College of Medicine, Phoenix, and their faculty. We do have NAU PA faculty assigned to those, but primarily the lecture and instruction for those courses, as well as the laboratory instruction for anatomy, comes from the medical school faculty. So these are definitely rigorous courses, just like all of our other courses, but they are known to be at a level that is definitely very difficult. We notice that students typically struggle, of all of our courses, they struggle the most with PHA 500, that human anatomy course right out the gate. And there are several reasons for that. First of all, it is a difficult and rigorous course. And then the other reason is that it's one of the first courses they take, and it's during a time when students are just trying to figure out what PA school is, how to work it, new study techniques, taking 19 credits, which, you know, isn't often the case in undergrad. All of those sort of dynamics, plus personal life and everything else going on externally, kind of factor into the fact that, you know, these courses end up being quite difficult. So there is a lot going on there. Also, there are at least 2 laboratories going on. So both human anatomy and history taking and physical exam both have a laboratory the same semester. So that's a lot of lab to be attending in 1 semester. Our clinical curriculum is our 2nd year. And this is, as I said, all off campus. This is organized in sort of in a very complex manner. The courses are just listed all there just to show you the courses that we have. This doesn't mean that the courses happen in that order. They happen in, oh gosh, I think the last I checked, we have a combination of probably 25 or 30 different combinations of the orders in which these courses can occur. depending what schedule the student gets. So what is important though is that students spend 8 weeks on family medicine, 8 weeks on internal medicine, and 8 weeks on pediatrics. Those are the primary care specialties. So 24 weeks of our entire curriculum is spent on what we call the core primary cares. Now, women's health, mental health, and to a certain extent, emergency medicine are also considered primary care specialties, but they're not considered the core like the top 3 are. All other rotations are 4 weeks in length, and then, as soon as a student finishes one, they're off to the next one. We have 2 courses that are not offered at a clinical site, and these are seminar and PA capstone. The PA capstone is all year long, all 12 months. That is a course actually that I teach, and that is a course that just basically requires a student to finish their capstone project and all of the other assignments that are due for that course. Primarily, the assignments are going to be about preparation for the PANCE certification exam after graduation, and as I said, the capstone project. The seminar is a course that's designed to require students to come back to campus and finish exactly that. Seminars that occur at every one of those return to campus sessions. And then finally, the elective is the other prerequisite, the other clinical rotation that every single student at our program has to do. Before I move on from this list, I should say that, well, no, I can move on to the next slide. And this next slide basically shows you where all of our clinical sites are located. Now, kind of an abbreviated list, but it shows you, because we have over 350 clinical sites on our list of possibilities to send. So obviously there should be a lot more map drops on this map here, but it's at least, again, right now is the proof of concept, and that is, where are we located? Our students are going all over the place in Arizona. We're not a Phoenix program. We are an Arizona program, and because of our mission, we focus on ensuring that we send students to every part of the state. All PA students are required to rotate anywhere in Arizona. Students are responsible for travel and housing, so that if we assign a student to Kingman, or we assign a student to go to Yuma, or we assign them to go to Page, these are places that require 3- and 4-hour drives one way to get there. So obviously students have to live there for either 8 weeks if we assign them to family medicine, for instance, or 4 weeks if they go there for emergency medicine. And we require them to not only go there, but also use their financial aid package to be able to pay for the travel there to and from, at least once, and then also the housing that's required. So they may need to rent a separate place, an apartment or a hotel room or something for that period of time while they're there, in addition to paying their housing already where their home base is at. Rotations are typically scheduled from August to August. So last week in August to the first week in August is when they complete over a 12-month period. The 7 core rotations, and remember that the cores are going to be the everything but the electives. So family, internal, PD, surgery, women's health, mental health, and ER. All of those must be completed in Arizona. We do not allow students to leave the state to accomplish those. So that's typically a common question we get from out-of-state applicants. So I'm from New York. Am I able to do my rotations in New York? The answer is no, not at our program. It doesn't matter what state you're from. If you're coming to Arizona to study at our program, you have to study the entire 2 years in Arizona, and that is not up for negotiation. The only rotation that is allowed to be outside of the state is the elective rotation. That may be out of state with approval from the program, and we have a whole process that we have for getting those rotations approved. That is the only exception. International rotations right now are not currently supported. That doesn't mean they won't be. However, I can say for this next academic year, because of COVID, international rotations will not be supported. For this particular class, since you're applying for class of 2023, we may be back to, international rotations may be supported. However, if a international rotation is to be supported, it must be for the elective rotation only. that is actually an accreditation requirement, not even an NAU requirement. So it would have to be for that rotation only if it were allowed for the class of 2023. One common thing that I get is, well, can I request to stay close to home? So I'm from, I don't know, Gilbert, and I would like to stay as close to Gilbert as possible because I have kids, because I have a baby, because I take care of a loved one, because I have this, because I have X amount of reasons. And we typically say no to that. We are very transparent about this requirement, and we expect that during the clinical year especially, that students make arrangements for any kind of challenges that they may have regarding being able to do all of these rotations. And so we have, in very few cases, made the exception for this, and we have that all spelled out in our student handbook for that. And we don't typically allow that to be released until students are actually in the program. However, if you have questions about that, feel free to send a question about those exceptions to the PA Prog at NAU email address, and that I'm sure they'll forward to me for an answer. But suffice it to say is that we expect everyone to make all of the arrangements they need to make to study at our program. And I also want to say that although I sound hard-lined and like, oh, this program is so stringent, it's actually not unique to our program. Every PA program is the same. We all require our students to go all over the place. In fact, the other two programs in the state also require the students to travel. But in fact, the other two programs do send their students out of the state of Arizona by requirement. So that's not something that we do here. So, we're not unique in this requirement. Everybody's the same. So if you're wanting to go to PA school, you need to start thinking in your headspace right now, 2-3 years before you're accepted, or 2 or 3 years before you even start your rotations. How are you going to manage, the difficulties you may have not being able to live at home during the second year? Because you can't drive 4 hours each way to and from your rotation on a daily basis. So be thinking about preparations for that. Students are expected to have reliable transportation, so you must have a working car or truck or some way to get back and forth to your rotation. Usually mass transit isn't going to cut it for clinical rotations, especially if you need to be on time and whatnot. And then you also, again, need to make really plans for families and extended families during distant rotation. Start preparing everybody in your support network for this long, arduous 2 years that you're going to go through in PA school, and say, not only is it going to be difficult, I'm not going to be very available. And so start setting all that up for success for you to be able to do PA school really well. So why NAU? A couple of things I also want to stress as we're kind of trying to wrap up here at the end. One thing that we have at NAU that the other PA schools do not, and that's unique to us, is AHEC scholars. And this started last year. We have one small cohort of PA students that applied to become what we call AHEC scholars. And for this new cohort that is going to be starting right now in the class of 2022, there will be 10 scholars, and we expect that for class of 2023, there will be 10 scholars as well. So 10 students out of the 50 will be selected to be in this cohort. And this will be assigned for two in each region. So AHEC, which is the Area Health Education Center, this is a federal program supported by HRSA, divides the state into 5 regions: Northern, Western, Central, East, and Southern. And the scholars will be divided evenly between the different regions. So 2 for each region. Those 10 scholars will get $1,000 per year for fall and spring participation first year, and fall and spring participation for the second year. It is a 2-year commitment. But what comes with that 2-year commitment is some significant advantages for those students that are doing that. First is they get 24 weeks of rural rotation. So advantage or disadvantage, you have to, first of all, be interested in this kind of healthcare. We're going to assign those 10 students to the regions in which they're at for at least 24 weeks. So for family medicine, internal medicine, and pediatrics, those students have to do those rotations in their assigned territory. Of course, rotation available. So if there is a rotation in that specialty there, they get a priority to do that rotation in that area. And they also will guaranteed get housing paid for, travel paid for, and even meals paid for those 24 weeks. So not only do they get $1,000 cash every year, they also get all of that other supplemental income to help pay for those things. These students also get to double dip. So the project that they're required to do as AHEC scholars in an interprofessional way gets counted as their capstone project for graduation. They also are required to do a monthly webinar, just like we're doing right now. It's the third Tuesday of every month from 6 to 8 p.m. These students have to participate in a webinar. That's actually quite interesting. They're usually almost always geared around the social determinants of health in Arizona Public Health. And then they are required to do 2 in-person, what we call immersions. So 1 weekend each semester. So here's an exception to the weekend rule. For this set of people, for 10 people, 1 weekend, first an early weekend in the fall semester and an early weekend in the spring semester, they are required to attend Saturday and Sunday at the AHEC centers they have been assigned to. In the north, it's Flagstaff. In the east, it's Payson. In central, it's in Phoenix, just 2 blocks from NAU. In the west, it's Yuma. And in the south, it's Nogales. And so those are the areas they have to attend those weekend events and then come back up. And yes, travel is covered, and even hotel is covered as well as meals during those weekends. 1 annual conference in Tucson in April, again, with coverage for meals and all expenses paid. And really what's required is an interest and experience in rural and underserved medicine. So anybody coming from a background where they really want to work in these areas after graduation, going to get priority for consideration of the 10 spots, because it is competitive application that we send out around May or June before starting PA school. And so it's a great opportunity. The students that are in there now have been the inaugural sort of pioneering students, the first ones out the gate to do this experience. And we're real excited about it. We're expanding it a bit more this year. So it's definitely a great thing to do. So if you're interested in this, no other PA program in Arizona can offer you this. So we encourage you to really consider NAU as NAU is for you if you're interested in this type of opportunity. The other opportunity that comes in conjunction with this is the Rural Health Professions Program. So NAU PA has been designated as a Rural Health Professions Program as of this year. And that comes in conjunction with AHEC scholars and is the way that we're able to offer AHEC scholars to our students. This is partly funded by by the HRSA, by federal funds, but it's mostly about 90% supported by Arizona lottery funds. And so from those funds, we're able to offer every single one of our students in our program. We are able to offer them a little bit of what the AHEC scholars do. So like the AHEC scholars at the top tell you, they get their 24 weeks of rotations. Everyone else that's not an AHEC scholar, so 40 other students will get housing, travel, and meals paid for at least 1 4-week rotation at a rural site. We already require every single student to do a rotation in a rural site. That's nothing new for us. What's new for us is we're now going to be able to support that financially for students so that we can at least help a little bit with the burden that students have financially on that. So we're real excited about that as well. That is a brand new offering. And then to take it even further, we're going to offer at least 10 students who want to give up their elective, like they want to utilize their elective to do a primary care rotation. So, and by those we mean family, internal, PD, women's health, mental health. Any one of those 5, if they want to do their elective in those areas, for the first 10 students that opt for that, we're going to also pay for the travel and housing and per diem for those 10 students for that rotation. So it's a really great opportunity for that 4-week business. So, potentially 10 students out of the 40 will be able to get at least 8 weeks of that payment. So another great opportunity. This is an opportunity that not any other PA program in the state can offer you. That's unique to NAU And again, another reason I think why you should consider NAU if this is a mission that you're looking at getting, and it's an experience that you're willing to go through. The money that we have in the Rural Health Professions program also supports faculty site visits and travel. Not only that, it also supports technology resources, so we're able to buy certain apps and provide certain resources that we weren't able to provide before for our students based on the funding that we're getting from our HPP. So a great thing to have on board for us. Our mission and goals, and I put that in all caps as far as what else about NAU is unique. I think I've said a lot about our mission and goals. I've really stressed that, and I can't stress that enough. If our mission and our goals really match those that you have, we're definitely going to be a match for sure. Our faculty, we just hired a brand new faculty member who just started on Friday. So we're up to 9 now, full-time faculty. So we're real excited about that. We have some of the best faculty in the country. I can't tell you enough about our faculty and how great they are. Between us all, we have, oh gosh, over 200-300 years of experience in PA education. We got a lot. Not to mention how much research and acumen we have and success we have with different innovative teaching methods and focused on active versus passive learning in our program. We're not just lecturing all the time. We do try to mix it up, especially now with Zoom. We really try to mix it up and get people as engaged as possible. Our faculty to student ratio is actually better now that we hired an additional person. So we're now 11-to-1 overall. If you look at the faculty to student ratio for the entire cohort of 100, it's 11-to-1, which is below the national average. Right now, the national average is 15-to-1. So we're below that. But I have to be honest with you that most of the faculty one-on-one time that we utilize is for first year. During the second year, students are typically interfacing more with their clinical preceptors or our clinical coordinator directors than they are with their faculty advisors, although they do get some time. Our faculty advisors are mostly interfacing with our first year didactic students the most. So you're looking at a 5-to-1 ratio of faculty to student. That's extremely low. I mentioned earlier also, we don't have an overlap in our program. So we graduate one class and start another. We don't have 3 classes enrolled at the same time, which most PA programs do, especially in Arizona. So we are unique in that we can focus on those students that we need to focus on and get them past the finish lines when we need to, if we're not having a really high faculty to student ratio. So that's really important if you're interested in that one-on-one ability. Cost of attendance, super low. That's one of our biggest assets at NAU, is that our tuition is way lower than at least the programs in Arizona, because we're public, first of all. But looking at, if you were to match our tuition and fees to the tuition and fees of the majority of the programs on the West Coast, and really you're looking from Texas on over here, all of this entire side of the country, we are like on the bottom 5 in terms of costs. And so, it's pretty economic to come here to NAU, especially if you're an in-state resident. Definitely very cost effective. We have AHEC scholars, we have our HPP. I've talked about those as well. Our facility is nothing short of amazing. I mean, you can't honestly study at a better place. I've been to many PA programs. And seriously, the facilities that we have are really some of the best, if not the best I've seen. In fact, one of the reasons that I took my job here at NAU was because I was so impressed with the facility. And we actually used the whole facility to the most and to the best of our advantage. So definitely great. Our pass rates are very respectable. We're up well above the national pass rate, national average pass rate, where we need to be for passing the PANCE. So no problems there. That's all I have. So we're just about out of time. I'll take questions for about 5 minutes. Anybody have any questions before we go? I know, thank you, Poppy and Molly, you've answered a ton of questions. I've seen them coming in and out. Anyone want to ask me a question before we go? All right, let's see. Rochelle, go right ahead, Rochelle.
Hi, Hi, I was curious for the first year of classes, the didactics, is there any volunteer work that the students can participate in that's medically related?
Yeah, that's a great question and a common question as well. And we typically get that question early on in the curriculum because students are really eager and want to, use their free time for volunteering. And the answer to that is yes, the students get involved in some volunteer experiences here and there. But what they quickly learn about October or even late September is that once exams start to hit, their interest in volunteer experiences really starts to dwindle because they're so busy and they want to spend as much of their free time as possible with their loved ones at home who they're neglecting a lot while they're studying. So we don't have any PA program mandated volunteer opportunities because, again, we like for students to really focus on their studies and give them the most time doing that. But we do have our fair share of recommendations, though, where we definitely tell students to get involved with, for instance, the Patch Clinic still, or Street Medicine Phoenix, we let them know about as well. They can also participate more with some of the interprofessional opportunities. They can participate locally with some of the clinics that we have that have some health fairs and other things. Local churches also our students get involved with a lot, doing some of those community service events. So they're definitely out there. And we just let students choose what they want. And then as a group, they sometimes choose some that they want to do together. And they might do maybe 1 or 2 events a semester, not very many more than that. Again, because we stress not to overburden themselves with additional things, because believe me, once they get started, the free time that they have is very valuable. And although it's extremely valuable to volunteer, they sometimes want to spend it either catching up on studying or with with their kids or their loved ones at home. Hope that answers your question, Rochelle.
Yes, thanks.
Anyone else? All right, Quincy, go ahead.
I was wondering, how do you assign your clinical rotation locations?
Okay, that's a really good question. So there's no big secret to that. So first, availability. So our team, of which actually on our online today, Molly Minko is one of the members of the clinical team. And so she doesn't do a lot of the assignments. The clinical directors do that. And then so does one of our program coordinators does that as well. So first, it's based on availability. So we send out requests to all of our 350 plus sites to tell us, when are you available this year? What months are you available? How many students can you take? Et cetera, et cetera. We put that all in a system that we use online called EXAT. And then from there, students are matched up based on the survey that they fill out. So we actually interview survey every single every single student that has to fill out basically what their wants and needs are, what their interests are, what they would like their elective to be, in what field, and what sort of preferences they would have in terms of sites that they know about or they've heard about, or that areas of the state that they would like to prefer to stay in. So although we don't always honor that, we do want to know about it because we want to try our best to meet the needs of a student. So if we can meet those needs, great, and then we match them up. There are some sites where we know what the requirements of those sites are. So for instance, it might be a site with a preceptor that might have a personality that might not agree with some of the personalities that we know our students have. We get to know our students' personalities very well, and we know their capabilities very well also. So our clinical directors are very careful to definitely match academic and personality abilities and personality traits with those of our preceptors as best they can. It's not always an exact science, and sometimes we can't make the perfect match, but we do try our best using some of those criteria. But we do have a process for students to input some information and give us some data, and then we do with that data what we can to make the best assignments possible.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Quincy. Anybody else with a question? All right, Amanda McLeod, go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Amanda.
How do you evaluate success in the clinical rotations, and what sort of resources does your program have to succeed in both the rotations and didactic year?
Wow, that's a great question. And it's a complex one because we can answer it a million different ways, right? But I'll try my best. Faculty on there, Jennifer, do you want to talk a little bit about the didactic year on how students, what we do for student success?
Sure. So I think one of the things we do is we have each student assigned to a faculty member as their faculty advisor, who is regularly monitoring your movement through the program, your success on assignments, exams, professionalism, all of those types of things, and meeting with you at least once a semester, and if needed, more than that. And they are sort of a point person to coordinate any additional resources that might be needed based on how you're performing. They can kind of coordinate you meeting with instructors of record for various courses. They can direct you towards additional study techniques, aids, those types of things to kind of complement your studying plan. So I think that's one resource. Another resource is we have a learning coordinator that is employed by NAU that works with the various programs at the PBC campus. And he is a great resource to work with students that may be having a little bit of a difficult transition to sort of how to manage the rigorous workload that we see in the PA program, or just kind of can help out with kind of time management strategies, those types of things. So that's another resource that we have in the didactic year. But I think, just one of the biggest things, and this is more sort of like a conceptual thing, is just the fact that all of our faculty are very passionate about the mission of our program and making sure that our students can succeed in that mission. And I think that leads towards having, a very dedicated group that is actively involved in our students' progression through the program. I'm sure you have something to add to that, Eli. Those are the things that came to mind offhand.
Ian, did you have anything to add also before I check?
Yeah, so one other thing I would add in is generally we have kind of like an open door, open hours, policy when it comes to office hours. And what I mean by that is that, the faculty aren't going to have, restricted office hours that are from, 10 till 11, 2 days a week. Generally, we try and be available when students aren't in classes. We used to do in-person meetings. Now we've found ways to kind of transition that to virtual meetings through Zoom. But I just kind of add that as another way that we really go through and foster an environment to help the students succeed.
Thanks, Ian. Another part of your question, Amanda, was about clinical year support resources. And I'll answer because I'm part of the clinical team. I'll answer that as well. And we have, apart from all the things that Jennifer mentioned before, and that is our faculty advisors specifically, those go on, the same faculty advisor is assigned to the student from the beginning of the program till they graduate. So students are always going to be with the same advisor from day one to day last. And that's a real good model to follow for us because there's a lot of consistency in that model. And it allows for students to have definitely a good relationship with their advisor. During the clinical year also, we have 2 faculty dedicated completely to just the clinical year while students are on their rotations. Those are our clinical coordinators and clinical directors. We have 1 program coordinator who is in charge only just of doing placements. That's all she does the entire day and week. And that's a lot of work. But we're happy to have her, and we're lucky to have that kind of resource available. During the second year also, we have made, especially this last year, we made a lot of purchases for online software that our students are using that have really shown a lot of success in our students' abilities to be good performers on our end of rotation examinations. Thus far, they've been doing extremely well on those examinations. These are standardized national exams that we use. And we purchased some items that students can do on their own while they're doing their rotation to prep for those exams. And we have noticed that although scores aren't going up, what we've noticed is that an extremely low failure rate or an extremely low almost failure rate. So that's actually a good sign that some of these resources that we're providing are really benefiting the students. And I know that some other programs are not able to offer some of these because they often don't have the ability to afford those. And we've been able to, work the budget. Our priority is for students first and foremost, so we prioritize that. So I hope that answers your question, Amanda.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. And we'll take one last question, and this is from, I'm not gonna, go right ahead and let us know how to say your name.
Hello, my name is Zuleika.
Zuleika, beautiful, nice to meet you. Go
Thank you
ahead.
very much. So this is probably my 6th community event that I've attended so far.
Great, welcome back.
Super informative, thank you.
Huh?
So my question is, each school is unique in their own way, and I would like to know, what do you believe PE students like most about NAU's program?
Well, if I'm going to speak as the director, and yeah, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think that both Alan and Bianca stressed this before. I think what's best about our program is our faculty. I really have to say that we all follow this. We're all on the same page. We all follow the same mission. We believe in the mission. We believe in each other. We believe in our students. We believe in the resilience of our students. We talk about it every day, every meeting. We don't do anything without thinking about, their progress and their success, and what we can do to really bolster their ability to become the best PAs that they can be. Our faculty and staff are really dedicated to that. And so I would have to say that's number one. And number two, and I'm going to give the other two faculty a chance in a second, but the other one would be the fact that we have a low number of students. We are kind of a family. We know everybody by name. You're not in a large, you are in a large auditorium, but it's not a large auditorium full of 100 students. We're a small program, and with a small program comes a lot of one-on-one. And I said a lot about our faculty to student ratio. That kind of alludes to that as well. So for me, in my perspective, I would say that is what our students like the most. Anything different or add on, Ian or Jennifer?
Not really different. I think I agree. From what I hear from students, the most positive things I think are that they do feel supported. I hear that frequently from faculty, but also from staff and everybody within the program. Has a bit of that sort of family feel. So I think that, and then I'll kind of come back to the mission statement again. I think that we are a mission-based program, and we really, really mean that. And so if you're a student that believes in our mission, if you end up at this program, I think that you'll be happy that you're at a program that is following through with that mission statement that we put out there.
Thanks, Jen. Ian, any add-ons or?
Yeah, I'll just add on. While the current didactic year students haven't had an opportunity to experience this yet, as we go into the summer, that's when we do the clinical skills and interventions course. And we get to have the opportunity to go through and use kind of the simulation center that Mr. V mentioned earlier. And while we're going to have to be a little bit creative in how we utilize that through the summer because of social distancing restrictions, that's always something that is really popular with the students, especially because it kind of helps to springboard them as they start into their clinical year.
Thanks, Ian. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it did.
All right, great. Well, in the interest of time, we went over a little bit to answer everybody's questions. Thank you very much for coming and attending. This was the first time that we've used the webinar format. on Zoom. We're very used to teaching on Zoom at this point, but this is our first foray into this actual format, which for us as panelists on our side looks a little bit different than the regular teaching mechanism does. So thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate it. I will send everyone a link to this recorded session afterward in case you wanted to review it again. We most likely will put it on our YouTube channel as well, in which case we will send it that way. Have a good evening. Thank you for attending, and please, we'll see you in June for the next event.